The snow fell steadily that December night as Rebecca Mason pulled her old Honda into the parking lot of the Starlight Motel. At 29, she had never imagined her life would lead to this moment. In her arms, baby Emma slept peacefully, wrapped in the blue blanket that had been a gift from her mother before she passed away 2 years earlier. The divorce papers were still warm in her purse, the ink barely dry on a marriage that had crumbled like autumn leaves. Rebecca adjusted her cream-colored cardigan, pulling it tighter against the winter chill as she looked up at the glowing vacancy sign. $43 was all she had left after paying the lawyer's final bill. Room 12, the clerk had said, handing her an old brass key that felt heavy with the weight of new beginnings and uncertain tomorrows. As she walked along the covered walkway, her footsteps echoing in the quiet night, she noticed the man in room 11. He stood outside his door, a tall figure, maybe 45 years old, with graying hair that caught the light from the motel's fluorescent bulbs. He wore an expensive wool coat, dark and well-tailored, that seemed oddly out of place in this humble setting. Their eyes met for just a moment, and Rebecca saw something unexpected in his expression. Not judgment or curiosity, but a deep sadness that reminded her of her own reflection in recent months. "Evening," he said softly, his voice carrying the gentle authority of someone accustomed to being heard, but choosing to speak quietly. "Good evening," Rebecca replied, shifting Emma to her other arm as she fumbled with the key, her hands trembling more from exhaustion than from cold. The man stepped forward, his movements careful and respectful. "May I help you with that?" He gestured toward the stubborn lock, and Rebecca noticed his hands were soft, calloused, the hands of someone who had never known physical labor. "Thank you," she whispered, grateful for any kindness on this difficult night. As he turned the key with practiced ease, Rebecca caught the faint scent of expensive cologne mixed with something else. Loneliness, perhaps. "I am Marcus," he said, stepping back as the door swung open, revealing the small room with its faded floral bedspread and single window overlooking the parking lot. "Rebecca," she replied, "and this is Emma." The baby stirred, making soft sounds that filled the silence between strangers. Marcus smiled, and Rebecca noticed how it transformed his entire face, erasing years of what looked like accumulated sorrow. "She is beautiful," he said simply, and Rebecca heard genuine warmth in his voice. That night, as Rebecca sat in the motel's single chair, feeding Emma from a bottle, she heard the television next door playing softly. The walls were thin, and she could make out the late-night news reporting on holiday charity drives and year-end donations. She had no idea that the man next door was Marcus Wellington, heir to a shipping fortune, who had checked into this modest motel, not because he could not afford better accommodations, but because he was running from his own empty mansion and the echoing silence of wealth without purpose. The next morning, Rebecca woke to the sound of Emma crying and the distant hum of traffic on the highway. She had slept only in fragments, worry gnawing at her mind about formula and diapers and the rapidly dwindling contents of her wallet. A soft knock at her door interrupted her spiraling thoughts. Through the peephole, she saw Marcus holding what appeared to be a coffee cup, steam rising in the cold air. "I thought you might need some coffee," he said when she opened the door. "The diner across the street makes excellent coffee. I got you cream and sugar, just in case." Rebecca looked at this strange man who had appeared in her life like an unexpected angel, and felt tears threaten to spill over her careful composure. "You do not even know me," she said softly. "I know enough," Marcus replied, his eyes kind but not pitying. "I know you are brave enough to start over with a baby in your arms. That tells me everything I need to know." As the days passed, a quiet friendship developed between the unlikely neighbors. Marcus would appear with coffee and sometimes pastries from the diner. Rebecca would share stories of Emma's tiny milestones, her first smile, the way she gripped Rebecca's finger with surprising strength. It was not until the third evening that Rebecca learned who Marcus truly was. She had mentioned needing to find a job quickly, and Marcus had quietly made some phone calls. "There is a position at Wellington Industries," he said carefully. "In their daycare program, they provide excellent benefits and on-site childcare." Wellington Industries, Rebecca repeated, recognition dawning. "That is the shipping company. They built the new community center downtown." Marcus nodded, studying her face for signs of judgment or calculation. Instead, he saw only surprise and something else that looked like understanding. "You are him," she said quietly. "You are Marcus Wellington." "I am," he admitted. "But I am also just Marcus, the man who has been running from a life that felt too big and too empty, until I met a young mother who reminded me that courage comes in many forms." Rebecca looked at this man who could buy anything he wanted, but had chosen to spend his evenings in a roadside motel, talking to a stranger about baby formula and small dreams. "Why?" she asked. "Because," Marcus said, his voice heavy with honesty, "you and Emma have given me something I thought I had lost forever. Purpose. The chance to matter to someone." Drop your comment from where you are listening. When did someone give your life new meaning when you least expected it? Years later, Rebecca would tell Emma the story of how they met the mysterious man who became not just her employer, but her dearest friend, and eventually, when the time was right, something more. How a chance encounter at a roadside motel had changed two broken lives into something whole and beautiful. Marcus kept the old brass key from room 11 on his desk, a reminder that sometimes the most important journeys begin not in palace halls, but in humble places where lonely hearts recognize each other across the distance of different worlds. In life's winter seasons, When we feel most alone, we never know who might be just next door, waiting to remind us that kindness and human connection can bloom in the most unexpected places.